Picture this, you're sitting in the boardroom at Trent Consultants, watching your months of work get dismissed with a wave of someone's hand. "It's too traditional," he said, cutting off my presentation mid-sentence. "I'm Anisa James, and I thought I knew corporate politics." I was wrong. Let me paint you the scene. It's a Tuesday morning, and I'm presenting our quarterly campaign strategy to the executive team. I've been at Trent Consultants for 3 years, working my way up from junior analyst to senior strategist. The presentation I'm about to give? 6 weeks of research, competitive analysis, and carefully crafted messaging that could land us our biggest client yet, a $2.3 million contract with global tech industries. But standing between me and success is our newly appointed Chief Marketing Officer, Blake. This guy walked in 6 months ago with his MBA from Wharton and immediately started revolutionizing everything we'd built, implementing daily stand-up meetings and mandatory innovation brainstorming sessions. As I click to my third slide, Blake raises his hand like we're in elementary school. "Anisa, I'm going to stop you right there." The room goes silent. Even the coffee machine in the corner seems to pause its brewing. This approach is too traditional. We need something disruptive, something that screams innovation. He leans back in his chair with that smug expression I've come to despise. "Why don't we table this and explore some fresher perspectives?" I feel my face flush, but I keep my voice steady. "Blake, this strategy is based on 18 months of client feedback and market research. The traditional elements are what our target demographic responds to." He waves dismissively. "Market research is yesterday's game, Anisa. We need to think outside the box." The other executives exchange glances. I can see CFO Amanda Lopez trying not to roll her eyes, while Head of Operations Tyler Brooks just stares at his laptop screen. Nobody wants to challenge the new golden boy. I close my presentation. Of course. I'll revisit the approach. But here's what Blake doesn't know, what none of them know. I've been quietly corresponding with our potential client, Global Tech Industries, for weeks. Their CEO, Maria Santos, specifically requested examples of our proven, reliable strategies after seeing some of our competitors' flashy campaigns fall flat. She sent me a private email last Friday. "Anisa, we want partners who understand that our customers value consistency over viral moments." Walking back to my desk, I'm seething. 3 years of building relationships, understanding what works, what doesn't, all dismissed because it's not disruptive enough. I think about my mentor's advice when I first started. In corporate, it's not always about being right. It's about timing. Maybe it's time to let Blake learn the hard way. I watch as he calls an emergency meeting with the interns, specifically 2 of them, Jake Patterson and Emma Richards. These kids are fresh out of college, eager to please, and completely inexperienced with real client work. Perfect for Blake's Fresh Perspective initiative. From my desk, I can hear fragments of their conversation. Influencer partnerships, viral marketing, authentic disruption. All the buzzwords that make Blake's eyes light up like a kid in a candy store. Emma pokes her head over my cubicle wall later that afternoon. "Hey Anisa, Blake asked us to develop some alternative concepts. Could you send over your research files?" I smile sweetly. Of course. Though I should mention, the client has some very specific requirements about messaging tone and target demographics. "Oh, we're thinking of completely reimagining the target demographic," Jake chimes in, appearing beside Emma. "Blake says we need to think younger, more digital native." I nod slowly. Interesting approach. Just remember, Global Tech's primary customer base is enterprise-level decision makers, average age 45, who value stability and proven results over trends. Emma waves her hand. "We'll figure it out." Blake says research can be limiting. Over the next 2 days, I watch the train wreck unfold in real time. Jake and Emma are working 18-hour days, fueled by energy drinks and Blake's constant collaborative feedback sessions. They're designing campaigns around TikTok challenges for a B2B software company. They're proposing influencer partnerships with lifestyle bloggers for industrial automation tools. Meanwhile, I'm quietly polishing my original presentation. Every chart, every graph, every carefully worded value proposition designed specifically for what Global Tech actually needs. On Wednesday evening, I'm staying late to finish some other projects when I overhear Blake's phone call with Maria Santos. He's in the conference room, doors closed, but his voice carries. "Maria, yes, we've completely revolutionized our approach. No, the traditional elements were holding us back. Trust me, this new direction will exceed your expectations. Through the glass, I can see him gesturing enthusiastically. He's selling confidence he doesn't have, making promises based on work he hasn't seen. Thursday morning arrives with the subtle chaos that only comes from impending deadlines. Jake looks like he hasn't slept in days, there are Red Bull cans forming a small mountain by Emma's workspace, and Blake is pacing the office like a caged tiger. At 10:47 a.m., I remember the exact time because I was updating my project timeline spreadsheet. Blake's phone rings with the aggressive, urgent tone he set for all client calls. The one that makes everyone in the office pause whatever they're doing because it might be important, or it might be a disaster, and in our business, those often sound exactly the same. Blake Hendricks, Trent Consultants, how can I exceed your expectations today? His voice has that forced enthusiasm that comes from too much caffeine and not enough sleep. From across the office, I can hear Maria Santos' voice through the speaker, and she definitely does not sound like someone whose expectations are about to be exceeded. Her tone is the corporate equivalent of a school principal calling your parents. Blake, I've just reviewed the preliminary concepts your team sent over last night. I have to ask, what happened to the strategic approach we discussed? The one focused on enterprise reliability and proven ROI metrics? The one that actually addressed our specific market challenges? Blake's face goes through several color changes, first pale, then flushed, then a sickly green that matches the dying plant by the window that nobody remembers to water. Well, Maria, we felt that approach was perhaps too conservative for a forward-thinking company like Global Tech. We wanted to position you as industry disruptors, thought leaders in the digital transformation space. Conservative? Her voice rises, and I can hear papers rustling in the background, which means she's looking at their actual proposal while she talks. Never a good sign. Blake, we're launching a $50 million product line to chief technology officers at Fortune 500 companies. These aren't people who make decisions based on TikTok trends or influencer recommendations. They want data, case studies, and strategic partnerships that won't embarrass them in board meetings or get them questioned by their CFOs. The office has gone completely silent. Even Marvin from accounting has stopped his usual keyboard clicking. Emma and Jake have frozen at their workstations like deer caught in headlights, suddenly realizing that their innovative gamification strategies might not be the breakthrough they thought they were. I understand your concerns, Maria, but if you could just give our new approach a chance, we've really reimagined your target demographic in a way that could expand your market reach exponentially. Blake. Her voice cuts through his rambling like a knife through warm butter, and the single word carries more authority than all of his MBA buzzwords combined. I'm going to be very clear. Either you present the strategic, research-based approach we originally discussed, the one that actually addresses enterprise decision-makers who control multi-million-dollar budgets, or we're terminating this engagement. I have a board meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m., and I need materials that won't make me look like I hired a social media intern to plan our market entry strategy. The line goes dead with that particular click that sounds like a door slamming. Blake stares at his phone for a full 10 seconds, as if waiting for it to ring again with Maria calling back to say she was just kidding. When that doesn't happen, his head snaps up, scanning the office with the desperate expression of someone who's just realized he's been swimming in the deep end without knowing how to swim. His eyes land on me, and I can practically see the gears turning in his head as he remembers that once upon a time, 6 weeks ago, someone in this office had actually prepared exactly what the client was asking for. Anisa. His voice cracks slightly, and for a moment he sounds less like a competent MBA and more like someone who's just realized he's about to explain to his boss why they're losing a multi-million-dollar client. Could I see you in the conference room? Now? I take my time gathering my notebook and pen, making sure to save all my work and close my laptop properly. Small acts of control when you're about to enter a battlefield. Inside the conference room, the same one where he dismissed my presentation 72 hours ago, Blake is pacing again, running his hands through his hair in a way that's completely destroying his usually perfect corporate styling. I need your original presentation. The traditional one. The words come out like he's confessing to a crime. I tilt my head slightly, adopting the same thoughtful expression he used when he was explaining why my approach needed to be revolutionized. I thought it was too traditional? Not disruptive enough? Didn't you say it lacked the innovative spirit that Global Tech needed? Anisa, please. We don't have time for this. The client is threatening to walk, and if we lose this account. He trails off, but I can fill in the blanks. Our quarterly numbers are already behind target. Losing global tech would mean layoffs, and as the newest member of the executive team, Blake would be the obvious scapegoat. But what about the fresh perspectives? The thinking outside the box? The authentic connections with digital native demographics? I'm enjoying this more than I probably should, but 3 years of corporate politics have taught me to savor the rare moments when competence wins over charisma. Blake stops pacing and looks directly at me, and for the first time since he started at Trent Consultants, I see genuine panic in his eyes. The kind of panic that comes from realizing that all your confident assumptions were wrong, and now you're facing the consequences in real time. Look, I may have misjudged the client's preferences. The market research you provided was more comprehensive than I initially realized. Can you have your presentation ready by tomorrow morning? I pretend to consider this, checking my phone calendar as if I'm genuinely trying to figure out if I can squeeze saving his career into my schedule. Blake, that presentation was built on 6 weeks of research and strategic planning, plus additional client consultation that happened outside normal business hours. I'm not sure I can just dust it off, Anne. I'll give you whatever resources you need. Full creative control. The senior design team instead of the interns. Whatever it takes. The desperation in his voice is almost palpable now. I lean back in my chair, the same confident posture he adopted when he was explaining why my months of work weren't good enough. I'll need Jake and Emma reassigned to other projects immediately. No interference with the presentation development process. Blake nods frantically. Done. Absolutely done. And I'll need you to not attend the client call tomorrow. Maria specifically asked for the person who developed the strategic approach to present it directly. She wants to work with someone who understands her actual business needs, not someone who's going to try to sell her on TikTok campaigns for enterprise software. His jaw tightens, the first sign of the ego that got us into this mess, but he nods again. The reality of potentially losing his job outweighs his pride, at least for now. Fine. Whatever she needs. Oh, and Blake? I pause at the conference room door, channeling every ounce of professional satisfaction I've earned over 3 years of navigating corporate nonsense. Next time someone presents months of research and client-specific strategy, maybe listen to the actual content before you dismiss it as too traditional. Some of us do this work because we're good at it, not because we're trying to prove how innovative we are. The next 18 hours are a masterclass in what happens when experience meets proper resources. With Blake's panicked authorization, I have access to our senior design team, people who understand that B2B presentations need to look professional, not like Instagram stories. I work with Thomas Mueller, our lead designer, who's been creating enterprise-level presentations since before PowerPoint had animation features. Finally, Thomas says when I explain what we need. I've been watching those interns try to use neon gradients for industrial automation slides. It was painful. We rebuild the presentation from the ground up, incorporating all the client feedback I've gathered over months of correspondence. Every slide is crafted with Global Tech's specific requirements in mind. The color scheme matches their corporate branding guidelines, something Jake and Emma never bothered to research. The data visualizations are clean, professional, and designed to be readable in a boardroom setting, not on a smartphone screen. I stay until 11 p.m., cross-referencing industry benchmarks and updating ROI projections with the latest market data. This isn't just about saving Blake's reputation anymore. This is about proving that thorough, strategic work produces better results than flashy innovation theater. Meanwhile, Jake and Emma have been quietly reassigned to updating our client database, a project that will keep them busy and away from any client-facing work for at least a week. I overhear Jake asking Amanda from HR if there are any more creative opportunities available, apparently not realizing that his TikTok campaign suggestion is now being used as a cautionary tale in other departments. Friday afternoon, 2 p.m. sharp. I'm in the main conference room with my laptop connected to our largest monitor, presenting to Global Tech's board via video conference. Maria Santos appears on screen first, followed by their CTO, CFO, and 3 other executives whose titles I've memorized from their LinkedIn profiles. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anisa James, Senior Strategist at Trent Consultants, and I'll be walking you through our comprehensive market entry strategy for your new product line. Maria nods approvingly as I launch into the presentation. Thank you, Anisa. We're looking forward to seeing the strategic approach we originally discussed. For the next 45 minutes, I walk them through each component of the campaign. The demographic analysis that pinpoints exactly where their target customers consume business information. The messaging framework that speaks directly to CTO-level concerns about implementation risks and ROI timelines. The media placement strategy that focuses on industry publications and professional conferences where real decisions get made. This ROI projection model, says their CFO, interrupting slide 12, can you walk us through the assumptions here? I spend 10 minutes detailing the calculation methodology, referencing similar product launches in their industry, explaining how we accounted for their specific market conditions and competitive landscape. These are the kinds of questions that Jake and Emma's influencer-focused approach could never have answered. The messaging resonates perfectly with our target demographics' decision-making criteria, Maria adds as I conclude. And these campaign elements are built on proven methodologies that have delivered measurable results for similar companies. This is exactly what we needed. As we're finalizing the contract details, Maria adds something that makes all the stress worthwhile, and please extend my thanks to your team for understanding our requirements so clearly. It's refreshing to work with professionals who value substance over flashiness. Too many agencies these days seem more interested in winning awards than delivering results. After the call ends, I'm packing up my laptop when Blake appears in the doorway. He looks like he's aged 5 years and 2 days, his hair is disheveled, his usually crisp shirt is wrinkled, and those expensive Italian loafers somehow seem less impressive when they're attached to someone who's clearly been humbled by reality. Congratulations, he says quietly, his voice lacking all the confident bravado that usually accompanies his public statements. You saved the account. You probably saved my job too. I look up from my laptop bag, meeting his eyes directly. Blake, I didn't save anything. I just did my job. The same job I was trying to do on Tuesday before you decided it wasn't innovative enough. The same job I've been doing successfully for 3 years while you were disrupting startups that no longer exist. He shifts uncomfortably in the doorway, probably remembering all the times he interrupted my presentations to share anecdotes from his previous companies. About that. I may have been too hasty in my assessment of your approach. You dismissed 6 weeks of client-specific research because it didn't fit your preconceived notions of what marketing should look like. You put 2 exhausted, inexperienced interns on a project worth potentially millions to the company because you thought fresh perspectives mattered more than actual expertise. And you nearly lost us our biggest prospective client because you were more interested in proving your vision was innovative than understanding whether it was relevant. Blake opens his mouth to respond, but I can see he doesn't have an answer. For perhaps the first time since he arrived at Trent Consultants, he's confronting the difference between competence and competence. Here's the thing about traditional approaches, Blake. Sometimes they're traditional because they work. Sometimes disruption is just change for the sake of change, and sometimes what clients need isn't innovation, it's excellence. They need someone who understands their business, their customers, and their challenges well enough to create solutions that actually solve problems instead of just generating buzz. I stand up, slinging my laptop bag over my shoulder. Maria Santos didn't hire us to be innovative. She hired us to be effective. And effectiveness comes from experience, research, and understanding, not from dismissing proven strategies because they don't sound exciting enough in a conference room. Maria adds, and please extend my thanks to your team for understanding our requirements so clearly. It's refreshing to work with professionals who value substance over flashiness. After the call ends, I'm packing up my laptop when Blake appears in the doorway. He looks like he's aged 5 years and 2 days. Congratulations, he says quietly. You saved the account. I look up from my laptop bag. Blake, I didn't save anything. I just did my job. The same job I was trying to do on Tuesday before you decided it wasn't innovative enough. He shifts uncomfortably. About that. I may have been too hasty in my assessment. You dismissed 6 weeks of client-specific research because it didn't fit your preconceived notions of what marketing should look like. You put 2 exhausted interns on a project worth potentially millions to the company. And you nearly lost us our biggest prospective client because you were more interested in proving your vision than serving theirs. Blake opens his mouth to respond, but I'm not finished. Here's the thing about traditional approaches, Blake. Sometimes they're traditional because they work. Sometimes disruption is just change for the sake of change, and sometimes what clients need isn't innovation, it's excellence. As I walk out of Trent Consultants that evening, I think about all the Blake Hendrickses I've encountered in my career. The people who mistake volume for leadership, who confuse buzzwords with strategy, who think experience is something to be overcome rather than leveraged. But I also think about the Emma Richards and Jake Pattersons, the interns who got caught up in someone else's ego trip, who worked themselves to exhaustion chasing an impossible standard because someone in authority told them traditional approaches were failing. The truth is, corporate environments are full of these dynamics. New leaders who feel pressured to make immediate changes to justify their positions. Experienced professionals whose knowledge gets dismissed as old-fashioned. And young employees who get manipulated into cutting corners because they don't yet have the confidence to push back. The real lesson here isn't about traditional versus innovative approaches. It's about understanding your client, respecting the work that came before you, and having the courage to stand by quality work even when someone with a fancier title tells you it's not good enough. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do in a corporate environment is simply be excellent at your job, even when excellence isn't flashy enough for the people making the decisions. Because at the end of the day, results speak louder than buzzwords. And clients remember who delivered what they actually needed, not who promised them what sounded exciting in a conference room. Trust your expertise. Value the research. And never apologize for doing the work right the first time, even if it takes someone else's failure for others to recognize its worth.